Let's give it up for Miss Kathy Fettke.
Thank you, John. Thank you for staying. Oh my gosh, I appreciate that. How are you still got room in your brains for a little bit more? Awesome. We'll make room. All right. So how many business owners are here? Awesome. That's what I wanted to see. Every hand go up, because when you are in the real estate business, it's a business. Whether you're in buy and hold, wholesaling, an agent, whatever it is, you're a business. And so I'm just going to spend a little time. Bree asked me to talk about how we built our business to where it is today. We have 42,000 members, mostly accredited investors, and kind of how did we get to that point where I was able to raise, I don't know, what was it, $13 million in 2 days for a deal? What does it take to get there? So I'll start from the beginning, which was in 1997. Rich and I got married. We got this opportunity to buy this house, which was way over our heads. It was 6 bedrooms, kind of pricey a little bit, but it seemed like underpriced still, even though I didn't really know anything about real estate. So we bought it, but I understood enough to say that house can be broken up and made into a fourplex. And if we rent the other units, we can live by ourselves, not sharing kitchens, refrigerators. Like, I wasn't going to do that. I was too old, 2 kids, not going to share a refrigerator with anybody. But if we could turn those 2 units below into, apartments, and then in the backside there was kind of another bedroom with its own entrance, we could turn this place into a fourplex. And with the rental income, we were living in the San Francisco Bay Area for almost free. So now there's actually a word for that called house hacking, right? So one of the best ways to get started in real estate is house hacking, because you can buy a property for just 3.5% down through an FHA loan, up to 4 units. So it's really one of the best ways to get started. It's how we got started. And then that property kept going up in value $100,000 every year, because we, by accident, bought at the bottom of that market, and prices just kept going up. So everything seemed great. We bought that in 97, raising our 2 kids. 2003, my husband was on a book tour. He has a book called Extreme Success. He's like a extreme athlete kind of guy. He jumps off Golden Gate Bridge and like El Cap and crazy stuff like that. But he wrote a book about what it takes to push through fear to be successful. But he came home from that book tour, and he had just gone to the doctor to check out a freckle. Turned out that freckle was melanoma. Turned out the melanoma looks like it had spread, and the doctor told him he had maybe 6 months at best. So here we were at things going amazing. He's got this book with Simon & Schuster. He's got this book tour. We have this house, 2 kids, and then we get that kind of news. So the good news is he's fine today. He's my co-CEO. The doctor was wrong. But at the time, I didn't know, and I had to figure out how to create passive income, because I wanted to, if the doctor was right, I needed a way to raise my children and not be away all day, not just stick them in daycare. I wanted to continue to be a stay-at-home mom. So I took let's see if it's on there. I have a broadcast degree. I worked in the newsrooms in San Francisco until I had children. But I kept this radio show that was just really random. Like, I was trying to be Oprah, and I wasn't succeeding at all. And so I would just do different topics, and I didn't really have a theme. And all of a sudden, I had a theme for my show. And it was, how do I make money? How do I make passive income? And I thought, well, the best way to do that is to ask other people who've done it. So I just started interviewing millionaire after millionaire after millionaire. It's shocking how many wealthy and successful people will talk to you if you ask, they would share their information. So I just started using that show to interview people. And I did it for personal, selfish reasons. I wanted to understand it. But it turns out, so did my listeners. So all of a sudden, after years of having just sort of a okay show, it took off, because other people wanted to learn how to build wealth and through real estate. So I was able to get people like Robert Kiyosaki to talk to me on the show. And right around 2005, now one of my biggest sponsors was a mortgage broker, so we were doing a lot of mortgage shows. We were interviewing a lot of people on what they were doing with the money they were getting by refinancing and so forth. People were were doing a lot of things that you're doing today. They were doing cash out refinances, getting, back then there was kind of unlimited investor loans that you could get. But I brought Kiyosaki on, and I said, the question I always asked everyone, where are you investing? What are you doing? And he said, well, I'm getting out of California because of these crazy loans. People won't be able to pay them back. It's a big bubble. I'm investing in Dallas, Texas. He said he sold everything in California. Well, he said that on the show, and I thought, wow, I better figure that out. So I jumped on a plane, went to Dallas, and learned all about the market there. I met with a bunch of agents, a bunch of property managers, just got to know, who the employers were that were coming there, what the average price point was for a good rental. I just went to learn that market, and I came back with 5 houses. Because again, back then it was really super easy to get any kind of loan, including an investor loan. And I, at that point, was a mortgage broker, so I could write my own loans, and that was really pretty easy. So I came back with 5 houses in Dallas, and we did that by doing a cash out refinance on this house, because like I said, it had continued to grow in equity. So that's how we got started, not only investing in what turned out to be kind of a 4-plex or a triplex, and took the money from that and bought and started to build a portfolio out of state into houses like this. This is what I learned from Kiyosaki and from doing my own research, that markets, when you hear the national media saying houses are up, or now I'm on TV a lot interviewed, and it's always the question, how's the housing market? It's like, what housing market? There's millions of little markets. There is no housing market. And that is what I learned back then, is California was in a big bubble, but Texas was not. And this house here that we bought for $140,000 or something would have been $1 million in California. But it's like, how could that possibly be worth how do you even build it for $140,000? And it rented for like $1,600. So the numbers just made sense. And I talked about it on the show and showed pictures. I was like, you're not going to believe these properties we just bought, and they cash flow. And all of a sudden, our phones are ringing off the hook with people who want to do the same thing. And so I said to my husband, I think we've got a business here. I mean, people want help. They want us to help them figure out how to buy out of state, and they want to use the teams that we've created and the property management that we use and the insurance companies, all this. So I just want to create something that, back before there was Meetup, when there were RIAs, back in the real estate days when it was just gurus selling tapes, anybody been to those? I was like, that's not where you're getting the information. I want to create a place where people get real information from real investors, like a network of people that share ideas and share information, that just real people. And Rich said, he writes on a napkin, how about Real Wealth Network? I'm like, that's it. So we started a real estate investment group that did not allow any sales whatsoever, no sales pitches, just investors coming to share their stories. This was our first website. It was pretty fancy for back then. It's kind of embarrassing today. There's a whole lot of call to actions there. You should only have one. There was like 20, but that was our first website. And then we quickly learned, wow, there's too many people who want this information, and there's just us. What can we do to reach more people? My show was only once a week. So there was this thing called the teleseminar. It was like cutting edge. No one was doing it. We thought, well, this way we can have like 20 people on a call at once and not have to repeat ourselves. And we started doing teleseminars. That was really cutting edge and successful until webinars came around. All of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, we can share our screen now. I think we were looking at, I forget the company, but now we use GoToMeeting. And that was another breakthrough technology. And right about the same time, Rich took my little San Francisco show, and I think I don't know if I have a slide for it, but he said, there's this new thing that iTunes has, that it's like you can upload your show, and I think it's called a podcast. And so he figured that out and uploaded my San Francisco show, and suddenly we had listeners worldwide. So what we learned from just the startup of our company was the importance of being an early adopter. And I cannot stress that enough. It's even more important today to be an early adopter. You can't do what was done last year, sometimes even last month. So early adopter for us meant, for me, my strength was finding the market. Like, where are the jobs headed? Where's the population headed? Where nobody else knows about it, so we can get in cheap and before prices go up. If you can find out where the jobs are going and where the population was going, and at that time, again, it was Dallas, then you can get there before the rest of the world. Most people thought we were crazy because prices were never going to go up in Dallas. That's what most people thought. I kept hearing at the time, oh, prices never go up, there's too much land. But Kiyosaki said, that's not true. Even if there's so much land, there's actually quite a lot of land in California. If you go just outside an hour or so, there's nothing but land. It's just that you can't build it. They won't let you build it, so hard. In Dallas, there's a lot of land, but you still have to bring in utilities. You still need water, electricity, so it's not like they can just build everywhere all at once. So really understanding, for me, where's the path of progress, where are the jobs going, where's the population going, but the real estate hasn't caught up yet. That was my job, and Rich's job was figuring out this technology, which was changing every year. And together, that helped us to stay ahead. And then, does anybody get to a point in your company where you kind of figure it out, and you're like, wow, I think I really got this. Like for us, wow, we're picking the right markets, we're getting the right teams, we've got all these investors that want to buy in those areas, we can do the loans for them. Like we got this business, but now what do we do? Because there's only 2 of us, and we're doing a bunch of jobs. Anybody feel that way sometimes? Like you want to hire more people, but the thought of that is just really difficult, let alone the actual reality of it. So in 2008, we finally were like, well, we got to hire somebody. So how do you do that? How do you get that right person? And here's what basically we learned about that, is back then I was the CEO, Rich he called himself the chief support guy, basically, but marketing basically was his thing, and because he built the website, and he's the one who got my show on iTunes, and really likes technology. So he was basically that side of it, technology. I was a CEO, but I was also sales. I was also in charge of product. I was also doing the podcast and the webinars and the events. So somebody's like, you got to do an org chart. I'm like, what's the point? It's me, you know? But they said, that's okay, do the org chart anyway and figure out what is needed and everything you're doing. So if there's one thing you take with you today, it's that, get an org chart. Anybody here have one? Yeah, anybody not have one? Okay, good, that's your homework. That's your homework. Get your org chart. So generally speaking, there's someone in charge of product, quality, operations. Sales is usually its own division, marketing, and finances. So you can just start right there, and if it's you, it's you. Just put your face on it or your name. And then usually under marketing, there's other things, and under finances and so forth. You can look it up. But what we were taught, and I'm so happy we got this advice, was pick the one thing on that org chart that you hate. Not only that you hate doing, but that you're really not very good at. All right? That's who you hire first. You don't hire your brother or your sister because they need a job. I've done that. Not great. You don't hire your friend because I hired a homeless guy because I felt sorry for him. Okay, like that's not how you hire. You look at your org chart, and basically everything you're doing, you and your partner or you, and you pick the one thing you don't like doing, burdens you, you're not good at it, it's not your strength, and you hire that. So that was Kelly over in finances. I hated that. Like Rich and I would fight about who's going to just handle the taxes and go through the receipts, and neither of us are good at that. So our first hire was Kelly. And then the second hire was Kathy Copeland down at the bottom. It was like, oh my gosh, I can't talk to people all day long. How can I run a business if I'm also talking to clients all day? I can't do that. Brought in a real estate agent, and I trained her, and she started taking, it's not that I didn't like working with clients. It was just one thing I thought, okay, I just can't do this all day. This person would be pretty easy to train because she's already in real estate. And then third hire was an assistant to just help me with whatever I needed. She was right out of college, and it was just like, can you help me plan an event? Can you help me figure out how to do the webinar? Can you help edit, like whatever, anything that I needed. And what that does, even when it's scary, getting that first employee or the 10th or whatever, what it does is immediately free you up to do the thing that makes more money. So even if it feels like, oh my gosh, this is an outlay, how am I going to afford this person? I can guarantee you, if you take the thing you don't like and aren't good at it and give it to someone who's really good at it, Kelly's amazing at it, now you have all this free time to do what you're great at. And for me, that was bringing in more product. It was running around the country finding deals. Because if I found deals, we'd sell those deals and we'd make more money. And the minute we would hire someone, we'd be making more money. Because it would free me up. And it's just, again, starting with those people. And then guess what? So now we had employees, and then 2009 hit. Anybody own real estate in 2008 and 2009? Was that a good time? That was a tough time, right? That was hard. So here we were booming. Now most of our investors never even felt the recession because we helped them sell the high-priced property, the high-priced low-cash property in California, and they 1031 exchanged to Dallas. That was our business model, was just helping people. I had one lady in Stockton come to me with 3 Stockton properties. We helped her sell for $420,000. They rented for $1,200 each. We helped her buy 9 brand new properties in Texas. So for me, that was 9 loans because I was doing loans at the time. Plus I got, some of the referral fee. Plus I got to sell the houses. It was a great business model. But even more importantly is all those houses we got her into in Texas rented for the same amount, $1,200 each. So she quadrupled her cash flow, diversified, got out of California. About 18 months later, the properties that we helped her sell went from $420,000 to $75,000. And the properties she bought in Texas have tripled in value. So she never got hurt by the recession. However, we did, because everything I was telling other people to do, we didn't do. We kept that White House, and we bought another, and we had it was a tough time. And things slowed down. So in 2009, I had to go to those new employees and say, there were a couple of times I literally had to say, I can't pay you this month. But if you'll hang in there, next month I'll be able to pay you. And they did, they stayed. Also, at that time, we had worked with some builders, and some of our clients had put deposits down, and the builders went under, and these clients lost their deposits. And I went to them and said, look, we're struggling here, but if you'll stick with me, I'm going to find a way to get your money back. And even if I just have to write that check, I'm sorry that this happened under my leadership. And sure enough, over the next year, we paid them back. We found a way to get their deposits back, and oftentimes it was just writing them the check. So it was a really tough time. And also, our houses were upside down, that White House too, completely upside down. It went from, I think I said it went up $100,000 every year. We had refied, take the cash out. It was worth less than half of what we owed on it. And the payment went up. So we were having a tough time. So we ended up having to short sell that house. So here I was helping all these people build wealth and avoid the recession, and Rich and I were just wiped out. So we moved to Malibu. Now, a lot of people think we moved to Malibu because we were doing really good. That we were at the bottom. We couldn't pay our employees. We had to short sell our California house. We sold everything. We put the bags, like suitcases, surfboards, and bikes in our Prius. Each had a Prius, and we drove to Southern California and moved to Malibu. Why? Why Malibu? Because in 2009, 2010, Malibu was on sale. We didn't buy anything, but we could literally live oceanfront for cheaper than it cost to live in the San Francisco area, because high-price markets get hit even worse. So it was like, hey, if you're down in the dumps, why not just live on the beach, So that is why we moved to Malibu. But at the same time, I had kept the investors whole, And it made that a priority. So our company kept growing in spite of these challenges. It was right about then that a developer heard the show and said, I've got this, can you raise money? Like, I don't know at this point, who's got money? And he said, well, I'm the guy that the banks always come to when they take, when they have to foreclose on properties. And right now, subdivisions are being foreclosed on left and right. Because at that time, again, this is important for anyone new into the industry, understand that things can change on a dime, and you need to be ready, and you need to be prepared. Because a lot of young and new investors are only thinking that things are going to continue the way they've been for the last 10 years, and I can assure you they won't. So a lot of people are looking at apartments saying, oh, I'm just going to base the pro forma on rents going up for the next 10 years. Probably not going to happen. It could, but you need to stress test for things that could potentially change on a dime. So in 2009, builders who had land, they had projects, they were beginning to build, and they started building, and then suddenly the construction loan they had been given was gone. Banks had no money. So even if you had been qualified for a $10 million loan to build out a subdivision, it wasn't there. So even if a project was really good, it went into default, it went into foreclosure. So this developer came to me and said, we can get subdivisions for 10 cents on the dollar because they've been foreclosed on. Can you raise money? Again, I was like, I don't know. So I sent out an email to my list and said, anybody interested, we can get these waterfront townhomes in Portland for $3 million for 27 of them when the loan alone had been $13 million. And I was able to get commitments within an hour for that, for $3 million. Now, for those of you in the money-raising business, what's wrong with that? Everything, okay? I want to make sure you know that is not how you raise money. You do not send out an email and ask for money, okay? I learned it real quick because I had someone go, you shouldn't do that. So there's a way to raise money for projects. If you are taking anyone's money for any project and their only role is to invest it, you have to follow securities law. It's not real estate law anymore, it's securities law. Super important to understand because, again, a lot of people are doing JVs and so forth, and JVs might be a little different, but if you are raising money from someone who's just investing in your project, it falls under SEC. So that means you can't advertise, and you can't just send an email out. You actually have to have a private placement memorandum, you have to have an operating agreement, you have to file it with the SEC. There's a whole process, which I learned very quickly. And fortunately, this project went great. But my point being that, I think, then in 2011, the word got out that we raised this money in a day and bought this project for super cheap, and all we had to do was finish it out. Investors made like 22%. And I had my podcast, so this group in Australia heard that and said, we want to fly you out. And the next thing you know, I was on a plane to Australia speaking to 1,000 investors who were not in a recession and had their dollar was twice as valuable. It had gone up, it was worth twice as much, and our property was like a 25% discount, 75% discounted. So for Australians, it was the opportunity of a lifetime, and suddenly we had thousands of investors wanting to invest. So what we learned during that tough recession time was, number one, do the right thing, because we took care of our investors, and sure enough, when a deal came, those same people invested because they knew we were going to take care of them. We weren't going to abandon them in hard times. So that was one. Number two, be good to your employees. They all stuck with us in those hard times. They're still with us. And again, just do the right thing. So we were growing. By then we reached $1 million in revenue. We had 6 employees. The show was taking off. And then, again, my husband did that thing he does, which is getting ahead of, staying ahead of in technology. He was the one who got the show on iTunes. he took me outside one day and said, you know what, video is the thing now. We're supposed to be doing video. So he takes me outside with his iPhone and he shoots a video, and it was a horrible video. It wasn't very good, but he did it because he was on the cutting edge there. Put it on our lovely website that you saw earlier. And Goldman Sachs, I think, was trying to clear its name because might have had a thing or two to do with the recession, so they were trying to do some good PR. Anyway, they saw that video. They saw that video, and the next thing I know, I got a letter in the mail with this big award that I had been chosen as one of the top 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs in the world for the work we were doing in cleaning up neighborhoods nationwide. Because at this point, I was going to every city in the U.S. looking for teams to help us find foreclosures, help fix them up, and I was bringing in investors from Australia to buy those. So people who would be afraid to go into, say, downtown Indianapolis that was just 100 foreclosures on one street, we'd go in and one by one buy them, fix them, rent them, and clean up the neighborhoods. And Goldman Sachs noticed, and I won that award simply because my husband put a video on our website. And then I won it. So that, by the way, is Lloyd Blankfein, the CEO at the time of Goldman Sachs. And other people who were there, there was the founder of Uber, the founder of SoulCycle, Box. I mean, it was amazing. It was the event that Hillary Clinton spoke at that she got in so much trouble for speaking at Goldman Sachs. Oh, Elon Musk. I mean, it was crazy. And again, comes back to my husband just being an early adapter in technology and staying ahead on that. And that, because that got such publicity, I was sitting in a business meeting in Phoenix, Arizona one day, and I got a text saying, Fox News would like to have you on to debate Robert Shiller of the Case-Shiller Index. And he had just won the Pulitzer Prize, mind you, for economics. And I'm like, what's he want to talk about? Like, well, he wants to debate. He thinks it's a terrible time to invest in real estate, and we're looking for someone who's got a different perspective. But he's never debated anyone, and he's always refused, but he'll debate you because he doesn't know who you are. Which basically, like, I'm a nobody. So, like, okay, I'll do it. And it was 2013. Now, do you guys think 2013 was a bad time to buy real estate? So this was, again, another example of a Yale grad, Pulitzer Prize-winning economist saying it's a bad and dangerous time for people to buy real estate. And I'm this mom from California going, you're crazy. Are you kidding? Rates are at 3.5%. Real estate is on sale. You can lock in rates for a fourth of what it would cost to rent and lock that in for 30 years. How on earth is it a bad time? And at the end, he's like, you're probably right. You know? So it's like San Francisco State versus Yale. You know, San Francisco State got that one. But, so that was all great for business, but for some reason, we were still stuck at this $1 million, which again, not terrible. But the problem being, remember the last slide, it was $1 million and 6 employees. Now we were up to 8 because we had more business, but we had to hire more. And we found ourselves in this conundrum where we were working harder and hiring more people, but not making more money. Anybody discovered that? That's a really common problem with businesses. As you grow, you need to hire people, but you can hire yourself. You can grow yourself broke. You can. And I've seen it with property management. I have seen property management implode right here in Chicago because they didn't know how to scale. So one of the things that we did right about then was hire a CFO. Now, we didn't have money to hire a CFO, but a CFO is somebody who will look at your finances and say, this is how much you're earning per employee, and the trend is down or the trend is up. And they will literally look at it and tell you when it's okay to hire that next person. Now, again, a lot of us with small companies, how are you going to get a CFO? Well, I'll tell you how. There is a company called Advanced CFO, and you can hire a part-time one. You can hire one. We pay him like a couple hours a month. That's it. Just to look at what Kelly puts together, and he can analyze it and say, you're not allowed to hire people this month. Even though you want them, you're going to have to get your employees to work a little harder to make a little more money to make that happen, or make sure that person that you hire is structured in a way that they're going to pay for themselves or add to the company. So advanced CFO, we highly recommend that. And then Rich got us into this thing called Elite Form. Does anybody use Infusionsoft? Infusionsoft, yeah, it's a database program. So when people come to our website, you want to capture their information, it goes into Infusionsoft as a contact management. And they had this mentoring sort of mastermind program called Elite Forum. So since they basically work with so many small businesses, I thought they might know a thing or two about it. So we signed up. It was 10 grand. Again, seemed expensive, but we did it anyway. And we ended up getting this out of it. They said the most important thing you need is clarity of who your company is, and that you need a clear purpose, a clear mission, clear values, and vision so that your whole team is moving in the same direction. I thought this was a big waste of time because I was the one in the office with phones ringing all day long, and the last thing I needed to do was go sit in the conference room and ask everybody what their values were. But my husband insisted because he's actually a motivational coach. That's what his book, Extreme Success, is about. So he made us do this. Sit in the conference room, go around, like, what's important to you? We were just like, we don't have time for this, but we did it anyway. And we came up with our company's Real Wealth Network. So, wow, the purpose, we help people create real wealth. It didn't seem like mind-blowing, but what did that really mean? It really meant to us helping people have the money and the freedom to live life on your own terms. If you have freedom and no money, it can be challenging. If you have money and no freedom, also not great. But if you can have the freedom and the money to live life on your own terms, that's real wealth to us. I live in Malibu with people who have tremendous wealth, but that doesn't mean they're experiencing real wealth. They might be either working too much or not, living their values. And then our mission to help 50,000 people create real wealth, meaning really living to your values by 2020. So as much as we didn't want to do it, we did it. We came up with core values being that we are atomic, and that would be accountability being so important. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. Transparency, that we're not hiding anything, like in our private placement offerings, our operating agreement, like it's all out on the table. And also, like if we have staff that are talking behind each other's back, like that's not okay. You got to talk to each other. Full transparency. Optimism. Mastery meaning whoever works for our company is going to be a master at whatever position they're in. And integrity, of course, and connection. Really, at the end of the day, our company was based on connection, taking investors and connecting them to good deals or good providers in different markets. So atomic. Now to this day, we get why this is important. Because we hire, this is the thing you'll hear, you hire and fire according to your values. This is true for marriage, for families. We had a rule in our family, like nobody gets to swear at anybody. Like that we agreed as a family, like no swearing. I mean, you could swear, but not at me, or he was like, no. And so, all the kids have abided by that. Like those are our family values. I mean, just one. And honesty. Like kids, you could tell us anything. We want your honesty. Just don't lie, because there'll be consequences for that. So it's the same with a company. And what we would find is certain employees, if they didn't live up to the stuff, it made it really easy to let them go. Because if you let anybody go outside of your values, then it sends a message to the company that it's okay. Like we had one of my first employees, I won't mention which one, but you'd probably figure it out if you looked at our website. She came in as a receptionist, and then we brought in, she kind of worked her way up, and then we brought in another receptionist, and something happened with her ego where she started treating the new person poorly, really poorly. She was not living to our values. And even one day slapped her. And I can't tell you how hard it was to let her go, because she was one of our first employees. But you hire and fire to your values. And if somebody's there who's not living to the values, it's a cancer to the culture. Your employees need to know that you're going to take care of them. So what we learned, having that cleared, shared purpose, mission and vision creates inspired leaders, leaders who want to work for you, and they're not asking for pay raises all the time because they're happy. Not that we don't give them. We do profit sharing now, but most important thing is they treat this company like it's their own, because that's what we envisioned. If we're going to be talking to people about creating real wealth, which is having more time, having passive income, then we need to build a company that can operate without us, right? So I couldn't fit it all on. We have 22 employees now. There's more people, but this is what I could do on the plane. But this is our structure now. Rich and I are co-CEOs. I can tell you it's much better for the marriage to be co-CEOs. For me to be the CEO and be his boss, it wasn't great. So we're really partners now. But I'm oftentimes in a company, there's a idea person. Like they've got this great idea, but they just aren't maybe going to implement it. And any of those in here? And you know what? Your ideas you're the millionaire makers. Like you are the rain maker, but you're not going to make any rain without your implementer. You've got to have your implementer. The person who can take your idea and implement it. When you've got that combo, like McDonald's, all you hear about is Ray Kroc, but there was an implementer who actually implemented all of Ray's ideas. And you don't hear about him because the implementer is usually a little more quiet, doesn't need all that, doesn't need to be on stage, which is why my husband's not here. He's the implementer. I'm the idea person, and it works. So we have syndications. That's our product where basically syndications are group investments, and that's SEC stuff. So Maggie, if you remember, she was my assistant. We hired her right out of college. She has grown, and we learned from Elite Forum to build leaders within your company. The good ones, you build them. Did she know anything about real estate or syndication? She was 21 when we hired her, but we invested in her. So you invest in your leaders. When you find a good person, you make them even better. And we just kept training her and mentoring her, and now she runs the entire syndication department for Real Wealth Network. We've raised $120 million. She's been busy, but she is so committed to the company. Turnkey, we've got that. Basically, that's when we have investors, buy properties that are already renovated and so forth. And Tim runs all of that. We got Tim. The reason we got Tim is there was a turnkey operation in Cleveland that melted down, stole investor money, took the money, didn't do the renovation. Some of our investors got stuck in that, and Tim had been working for that company. And he kept starting to see the company go bad and start to, go rogue. And he tried to stop it, but he couldn't. Anyway, he came to me and said, I got to help you somehow because some of your investors have gotten hurt. And he went and helped each one of those investors recoup their money. It was amazing. So we hired him. Now he runs that whole department. Sales, Ben was one of our investors. He now runs sales because he knows what investors want. Marketing, Nick is incredible, and finance. Kelly's now finance, HR. She relies on the CPA, the outsourced CFO, and Belay. Anybody know about Belay? This is a pretty good company. There might be cheaper ways to do it. I'm not sure, but if you just want a part-time employee who's really well trained, Belay has been useful for us for that. It's a company that trains basically part-time people to help build your business. So she works with bookkeepers and HR to coach her on how to do her job better. And again, we're building those leaders so that all the people under them report to those directors, and the directors report to Rich, who's the integrator, and Rich gives that information to me. So that's how you create a self-managed company. You build leaders, they manage the people below them, and usually 5 to 6 people is the most anyone should have that they're managing, and that's how it's working for us now. All right, so then what that did was it freed me up to do what I do, and it's allowed me to write a book. So with doing those jobs, what would be the value of taking my time to write a book? Man, has anyone tried to write a book and you're still writing years later? It's hard. It's hard, right, Dave? It's like it takes a lot of time. But when you start to put the right people in the right seats, then you could do these things that are big for the company. And so that, I did it. It became a #1 bestseller for like a week. It doesn't last, but for 1 week I was proud. I was with Tony Robbins was, I think, second for a little while with his money book, and so it was kind of fun. It was him and me for a day, but then he took over. But that became a bestseller, and that brought in even more business, and then it brought more media and all these things. So hiring those people helped free me up to do what I do better and what I love to do. Again, a thing that you learn at Elite Forum and at through Traction. Anybody familiar with that book? EOS system, excellent, is using your unique ability. And Strategic Coach, when you really dial into what am I best at and what am I not so great at or I don't like, get rid of that stuff and focus on the stuff you're great at. That's when your company takes off. So, and then also hiring people with a unique ability and making sure they're in the right seat with that ability. Like I said with Kelly, we have probably 20 entities at this point. It's a really awful job for someone like me. I don't like details. That I think I can't even imagine having that job. She loves it. She couldn't imagine a better job. So she's in the right seat for what she loves to do. So in modern PR terms, proof of expertise in most fields is shown with group affiliations, writing credentials, media mentions, not IQ points or PhDs. That's from Tim Ferriss. So when you free yourself up, you can do what you need to do as a leader and really make the connections. So these are just some of the resources. Strategic Coach, it's excellent for growing your small business. Traction, great book, highly recommend it. And then it was at that point, it was actually Elite Forum that suggested we be co-CEOs, and that was great. The big thing we got from Elite Forum and Strategic Coach was the importance of quarterly retreats with those leaders. So as you saw, we had the 5 directors who manage everyone else. And it's so important that you do off-site gatherings with those leaders to check in, because you can miscommunicate very quickly. Even if you're in the same office all the time, people, you might not be on the same page and not know it. So quarterly retreats, what we found out is in December or early January, we get together with the leaders and decide where's the company going? How much do we want to make? How many sales? What are the budgets that we need to do that? Who do we need to hire? Who we need, where are we going? And are the values still right? Is all that still right? And then you break it down, like let's say we want to create a new, platform for property management or something like that. And it's something that is going to take 6 months. Well, but it's our goal for the year. Then you break that down into who's going to do what by when, and then you check in at the quarterly retreat to see if it's done. And you can capture all that in a program like Basecamp. That's a project management system, another great resource, Basecamp. So you can just say, hey, we've got this great idea. We want to have this new system in place, or this new website, or we want to write a book, or whatever it is your new initiative is for the year. You break that down into the steps it's going to take, and then who's going to take them, and then when things are going to get done by when, and then the quarterly retreats are when you check in to check those things off and plan the next quarter. So these were game changers for our staff. Now the directors, we talk actually for an hour every week to make sure everybody's moving things forward. Have you ever been in a situation where you have a great idea and the team seems on board, but it's like a year later and nothing got done? This is how you will stop that, is you take the idea, you break it down, you assign parts, and you check in quarterly, but now we're checking in weekly. And that thing may be, I made a phone call. Great, check that off. What's next to get you to that goal? And then annual retreats, getting together for 2 or 3 days and just really spoiling the employees. This was Rich's idea, to just do something really fun, really cool, get a big Airbnb on the beach and just be able to plan out the year, but also just have some fun together. And that is what creates culture. Like one time we did Park City, and I found out if you go to places that are off-season, it's pretty cheap. So we went to Park City in October, and it's super cheap, but really beautiful. So they have this whole ropes course. We did that together, and there was like karaoke on the bus. And it's just a way for the employees to connect and have fun and like where they work. And so again, what we learned is when everything is important, nothing is important. So instead of having all these ideas, it's like, okay, these are the ones we're going to get done this quarter. Nothing else matters. Don't bring me another idea. If you have another idea, put it on the idea list for the next meeting, the next quarterly meeting. But for this quarter, we're only going to focus on the ideas that we're already working on. And until they're done, we're not doing another one. So every quarter, right? But those ideas can go into the idea section for you to all discuss and decide together which are going to be more important for the next quarter. So when everything is important, nothing is important. And that's what helped us to go 100% remote. We don't even have an office. We had a 7-office in San Francisco that was pretty expensive. But one by one, our employees just kind of like Ben wanted to move to Florida for tax purposes. Maggie, the millennial, wanted to go travel the world and be, just working on a laptop in some Airbnb in Brazil. So, or maybe China the next month. So we wanted to honor what our staff wanted, and if they wanted to live in other places, we weren't going to force them to move to Walnut Creek, so we just made our company, and we moved to Malibu, so it was 100% remote, and that money we were spending on an office, we now spend on that quarterly retreat where everybody gets to have a really good time and get spoiled. So Rework is a great book. Basecamp is a great project management system where everybody can follow along on how projects are going. GoToMeeting, we do a lot of staff meetings on GoToMeeting. You can also do them on Skype now. And Remote is a great resource. So by 2016, we had a remote office. Rich and I were, believe it or not, working less. We had directors managing things the way we wanted, and we 3x'd our revenue and made the Inc. 5000. I think that's supposed to say 1,000, not 500. 500 would be nice, but it's Inc. 5000. Yeah. So again, what we learned from this experience, because we broke that ceiling of that $1 million, which a lot of companies will do. They'll do this and then they'll flatten because they don't know how to scale. And what we learned is when the culture is strong, you can trust people to do the right thing. And company health surpasses all other disciplines in business as the greatest opportunity for improvement and competitive advantage. All right, so that again freed me up again to do something I was good at, so I started another podcast called Real Estate News. I really did that because I was getting asked to be on the news a lot, and I didn't know what was current. So it was again sort of a selfish reason, but I was like, man, if I have a daily news show, I'll be up on the news when I get another call from Fox. And so that ended up becoming one of the top 10 podcasts in real estate. And again, it just because I was able to be freed up. And I was able to be freed up to have another idea, which was to take all these turnkey providers. We have, like I said, 42,000 people trying to buy real estate. And these affiliates who, we might send somebody to Chicago to buy property, but they also might buy something in Tampa. But the Tampa team has different terms than the Chicago team, and it was just confusing to the client. So I thought, well, let's bring all of these property wholesalers and turnkey operators together in one room and see if they'll share each of them has, a golden nugget. Let's see if they'll all share their best practices with each other so they can all be better, even though they're technically competitors, and coach them along. Like here we were coaching our internal leaders, but how about coaching our affiliates, our partners? And we did, and we thought, are they going to share their secrets? And they do. They do. They have all gotten better. They all decided we want everything to be streamlined. We want a Real Wealth Network member to be able to go buy a property in Tampa through one team or in Detroit through another team and have the same experience. They came up with that through this mastermind. So we found that empowering our partners was the next step in growth for us. And then we did an East Coast event that ended up being successful. We did our largest raise in 2017. We raised $28 million for a development in Reno that's going well. That's retail. We're not selling those as rentals. So again, what we learned is don't just build a list, build a tribe of people who are loyal fans, whether they're in your company, whether they're your business, affiliate partners, or your client. Make raving fans, which is a tribe, again, versus a list. A lot of people get really excited because they have like a big list on Instagram, a lot of followers. But if those followers aren't doing anything, it's doing you nothing, except having a lot of people spy on you. So create that tribe. Like, what can you do to offer more, better, and take care of people even more? And that's when you see results, which again, that's supposed to say Inc. 5000. We won it again. And then now, as I said, I have 22 employees, 18 contractors that, these affiliates that provide us, our investors, properties. And yeah. All right, so the real competitive advantage in any business is one word only. It is people. Take care of your people, and they will take care of you. So this is our website today. These are the resources that, oh, by the way, on our website, there's so many resources for you under the Learn tab. It's free to join, and we've got webinars every single week. We highlight different parts of the country that we think are booming, that is the next Dallas, so to speak, is where the jobs and the population go and the infrastructure is growing. You can get a lot of that data under the Invest tab, and under the Learn tab, we have webinars every week, and again, that's free. And there's the resources that have really helped us, Advanced CFO, Belay. These are ways to get part-time people, and then you don't have to deal with all the HR stuff. Strategic Coach is excellent for business coaching. Elite Entrepreneurs was really good for us too. And then if you don't want to do any of that, read Traction. Definitely read Traction. It's very good. All right, so that is our story. Do you have any questions? No? All right. Yes, one.
What's your biggest obstacle now?
Biggest obstacle now? Wow, okay, that's good. I would say it's me. Now I have so much weight that the responsibility of having $120 million invested and wanting to make sure that that investor money is protected, and knowing that we're at the late stage of a cycle, and I don't know what that means. I don't know if there'll be a recession or not. There probably will be. There usually is. So knowing, going into that and protecting our investor money. So I would say our biggest challenge is making decisions at this late stage when it involves other people's money. So one of the ways that we have mitigated that is we're really careful with leverage. When if we go into a downturn, you don't want to be over leveraged. You really don't. And I know a lot of people that are leveraging to the hilt because they just think things are going to keep going the way they're going. And if rents drop even a little, that could be difficult. If you own multifamily and rents drop, they might call the loan on you because the value of the property's gone down. And you got to you got to be careful. Don't over leverage. Get into long-term fixed rate debt if you're going to do it. But one of the things we're doing is just not getting debt at all, because debt's really what made it tough during the last recession. On our Reno stuff, here's what we did just for that, to protect the investor in an up or a down market. We acquired the land, we entitled it, we paid cash, we raised enough money to acquire the land, entitle it, and then sell off half the lots for the price we paid for all of the land, so we're sitting on the rest free and clear. So things like that to make sure we're entering into the next market, no matter which way it goes, will be okay. Yeah. All right. I think we're out of time. So thank you, everyone.